Hey, look, it's us. It's me. We're missing one. We're missing a part of the tripod, but it's me. It's Chev. It's the biggest brain with the biggest game in the entire tail event gambling PFF article, models on top of models on top of models. This is your favorite statistician's favorite statistician. I feel like every time I feel like I'm gassing you up, but I genuinely feel these things. But this is Joseph Bryan Joseph. I introduce you like we're just meeting you for the first time. We're 11 weeks into the show.
Yeah, we're only more than halfway through the season, but yeah, I try my best. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that we're here to talk about some early looks at some of my favorite plays and some of your favorite plays this weekend.
Dude, so we're not gonna waste any time, and I wanted to get into it. Like we were texting back and forth, talking before the show started, and here we are, and we've got some really interesting matchups that I feel like we can take a lot of advantage of this week. And starting with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Detroit Lions. So I knew before I spoke to you, as soon as I saw that this was the Sunday night game, that there was going to be something involving this coverage unit and these receivers in particular, Devonta Smith and AJ Brown. So tell us where you're leaning in this game this week.
Yeah, so I this is such a smash spot for really this Philadelphia passing offense, and I'm sure that because I said that they're going to rush it, 35 times. But this is like the Lions run man coverage a ton, but also when they run zone coverage, they allow it to develop into what is effectively man coverage. So I call those single coverage situations. They allow single coverage situations to develop roughly 52% of every play, right? They allow single coverage routes to develop like 52% of the time. That's a lot. That's the highest rate in the NFL. And wouldn't you know, AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are both two of the best wide receivers in the NFL against single coverage situations, right? Yeah. And Jalen Hurts is the sixth best quarterback against single coverage situations. So we have we have this situation where there's this really nice right tail of outcomes here, where Jalen Hurts is very good against this kind of defense. AJ Brown is very good against this kind of defense, and Devonta Smith is very good against this kind of defense. And it's a game where they're probably going to have to score, right? They're not going to be able to get away with 10 points, I don't think, in this game. They're going to need to score against what has been a very good offense in the Lions. I know that they struggled for a little bit with Dan Campbell's been cooking. And I just think that this is a spot they're going to have to score. They're going to have to pass the ball. And they should have success when they do so. So this is, I am all in on some Jalen Hurts alt yardage, some AJ Brown alt yardage, Devonta Smith alt yardage. And I think you could even push some Jalen Hurts attempts, because if the Lions end up pushing this, you might get more pass attempts than expected out of Hurts. And, one thing I like to do with Hurts in general, I did this last year. I hit a 5-digit bet on doing this, but Hurts is one of the quarterbacks I really like to do yardage and a touchdown with. So I don't like doing this with every quarterback because it doesn't make sense with some, but Hurts is the goal line back in a lot of ways for this offense. Mm-hmm. And so I like to combine sometimes his yardage with him scoring a touchdown because of the tush push, because he is that kind of goal line running back for them. So yeah, I just think that you can get crazy with SGPs here and really do quite well for yourself if this ends up being kind of a right tail event game.
Now, you said if it ends up being a right tail event game, this is the perfect environment just to put some numbers to how much of an advantageous matchup it is for a guy like AJ Brown. Now, we know that it was absolutely piss poor last week. He finished with 3 targets and 13 yards, and it's been bad. And Devonta Smith's been much more reliable. But AJ Brown's got, man coverage itself, like pure man coverage, 10 routes in the last 4 weeks. He's averaging 10 yards per route run and 2.58 fantasy points per route run. I know it's not, look, I'm a fantasy guy. I'm learning the gambling angles from this guy. And this was one of the games that immediately put my alarm bells off. And I was like, oh yeah, we got to make sure that we talk about this. But he's been incredible versus man coverage. But on the Devonta Smith side, like we have this single high that the Eagles play quite a bit. I mean, excuse me, that the Lions play quite a bit, and Devonta Smith's been incredible against single high coverage as well. So, would you be interested in playing like trying to chase a tail event for both with a Jalen
Yeah,
Hurts
I would.
touchdown?
I'm going to build this in like a bunch of different ways, right? Like my favorite kind of build for this, and just the kind of I guess a little bit of anecdotal bias here, but the bet that I hit last year, the big bet I hit last year was like Hurts 275, AJ Brown I think I did 90, and then Devontae Smith 70 with Jalen Hurts scoring a touchdown. Right,
Yeah.
like that kind of build, like that idea, not necessarily that build specifically, right? I don't know about that specific build for this week, but that idea is what I'm going to really chase. And then I'm going to have a few where like, okay, maybe AJ Brown goes off for like 130 in this one. And I don't really include Devontae in that, and vice versa. Like maybe Devontae goes off. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about betting the tails is that like, instead of betting, like you can bet a lot on one outcome that you want to, but I oftentimes put smaller amounts of money on say 5 outcomes that I think are likely in this scenario that add up to what I would put on like one larger bet. So that's kind of how I would approach it. And, I don't know. I just think that this is such a fantastic right tail spot. And if you hear people from Philadelphia, I have some friends I was texting about this earlier that I was like, I'm gonna go on the show and I'm gonna talk positively about Philadelphia's passing game. And they were like, don't
them off. Yeah.
Stop. Yeah. Like you don't understand what it's like here anymore. The city's about to burn down, I think, just because of how angry AJ Brown is about not getting his targets. And I think that's like kind of the thing is we're heading into the perfect matchup for him. If you look at his man zone splits on the season, when teams play zone coverage, he doesn't get targets. And guess what the Packers do a lot of, right? When teams play man coverage, he does get a lot of targets. Guess what the Lions do a lot of, right? Like this is a situation where we can expect a lot of targets. Now we might not, right? They like because of all this frustration, maybe we won't, but I do think that because of the way the Lions like to play defense, if they continue to play defense that way, we can expect a lot of targets. AJ Brown is phenomenal against man coverage and against single coverage. We can expect a lot of yards because of that.
Yeah. And, just to close the loop on that, I think, you hit the nail on the head. You're going to chase, potentially an anytime touchdown from Jalen Hurts, along with a complete right tail event, like going way over on the alt yards, maybe potentially as high as possible that's offered for AJ Brown or Devonta Smith, playing it that way. Am I correct?
I mean, like in a few, that won't be my main core bet that I do for this, but yeah, but like I will have like little scenarios where that is the case, right? Where I push out like max yardage for say AJ Brown and then push out, good yardage for Jalen Hurts and maybe even like Eagles win, like Eagles cover or Eagles win.
Yeah, I mean they're 2.5 point favorites right now. I don't know if that's moved. I haven't checked today to see if it's moved, but I mean they're playing.
Yeah, it's still 2.5. I was checking it right now. So
okay,
yeah, it's still 2.5.
Perfect. Yeah, so
and right now Jalen Hurts like over under his just typical over under for this game is like in the let's see exactly where it's at. Like it is not that high, and that's just a beautiful thing to see, right? It is currently sitting at 205. That like means that hitting 250, you're going to get like plus 300, right? Close to plus 300 for just 250 yards in a game that they easily could get pushed to that number. So again, I think we can wrap it up on this one, but this is a fantastic right tail spot for the Eagles, and I am all in on it.
So, I mean, yeah, we're in lockstep as usual. Like I said, the process that goes behind a lot of the logic of these plays has bled into my brain and it affects my rankings. We talked about it on the wide receiver show. And I was like, look, I'm really high on AJ Brown this week. And I knew when we got to this show and I talked to you that you would be too. But
I will add one, actually real fast, just one more thing to add about this is, so funny enough, on the other side, the Eagles allow a lot of single coverage to develop themselves, right? They allow a lot of single coverage situations to develop. Jameson Williams has been phenomenal this season when given single coverage situations. He is like kind of the perfect example of like a bring back. Like if I were like, as I build out these SGPs and stuff, there's going to be times where I add like maybe instead of pushing a certain player on the Eagles to like super far, maybe instead I'll just add Jameson Williams 60 on the other side, right? And that makes the odds go insane. If he just catches one deep pass for a touchdown, that accelerates the game. That allows Hurts to get more opportunities for his yards. It allows AJ Brown more opportunities, and it forces the Eagles to pass the ball more. And so, like, this is a situation where like Jameson Williams is kind of the perfect counter in this game environment.
Listen, we're gonna have a Hall of Fame at the end of the season for tail event heroes, and Alec Pierce and Jameson Williams are for sure gonna be getting gold jackets from us. Yes. Like that's a given. But let's move on to another game environment where, and just to highlight this, and again, I wanted to make sure I brought this up because the Coach I Was Open article for week 9 going into week 10, Justin Jefferson popped up on there. And there was one thing that we've taken from you that I think is a very astute point. Whenever a guy like Justin Jefferson shows up on the Coach I Was Open report, we got to do something with it. So tell us about, again, we all know that there's a glaring problem with numero 9 at the quarterback spot, but also there's a glaring problem with the Bears coverage unit. So I'm gonna step back and let you talk about where we can take advantage of the Chicago Bears this week.
Yeah, so the Vikings and the Bears it's a fun game. Let's just say, like, it's a fun game heading into this week because I think there's two angles that I really like for this game. And the first angle is that the Vikings pass offense has not been that great. And it's very clear and obvious why. And it's because JJ McCarthy is very inaccurate with the ball. He currently has the worst accuracy percentage in the NFL. Like, if you look at just anybody's metrics, like fantasy points, PFF, anybody's metrics, he's just at the bottom. He's usually at the bottom left of whatever chart you're looking at. He's just not playing good football at the moment. And that is really holding this offense back. I do believe that if there is a defense, there's like 3 defenses in the NFL that I am high on allowing a quarterback to start being more accurate. They're high on a quarterback like having a better game than normal. And those 3 defenses are the Bears, the Bengals, and the Cowboys. Right? Like, those 3 defenses are kind of perfect get-right defenses for any NFL offense at this moment. And right now, the Bears allow the highest passer rating in the NFL when on coverage snaps. They allow the highest percentage, or the 3rd highest percentage, of open targets. They are, in top 5s and like EPA allowed, success rate allowed, like all this stuff. Like, they're just not a good defense for defending the pass. And you're going in there with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Jalen Naylor, who have all 3 been fantastic at getting open this season. It's just JJ McCarthy and his accuracy. And those are situations I love betting right tails because all we need is for JJ McCarthy to just have a slightly better day than normal. Like, right now, he has a 47% accuracy. He's the only quarterback below a 50. his accuracy percentage is just atrocious. If we get that accuracy to like a 60, like league average, you're talking like 300-yard game. You're talking a really good game. Maybe not 300 yards, but you're talking a really good game. Yes. If you can just get his accuracy percentage up with how many attempts he's been given. So, I am all in on this idea of Justin Jefferson having a good game through JJ McCarthy, maybe having a league average accuracy rating in this upcoming week. The other angle that I like in this game is, at least last I checked, I should double check again, but the Bears were 3-point underdogs in this game. Correct. Yes. And they're still 3-point underdogs. And my models like the Bears to be 3-point favorites in this game, right? So my models have really adjusted. So one of the things that my model, like I use in my models, is that I really only look at recent data, like the last month of data. And I use that to predict upsets, right? Like, my model predicted Green Bay to really struggle with the Panthers, and the Panthers ended up winning. And that's just because recent data is more important for predicting NFL, like predicting these outcomes, like these upset outcomes, in my opinion, than season-long data. Season-long data is obviously, you're going to get a better spread, like a better true spread and a better median. But recent data is going to allow you to predict these upsets and to find these outlier events. And my model rarely swings 6 points across 0. My model basically never does that. And it really likes the Bears to be about 3-point favorites in this game. So the other angle that I want to approach this with is that the Bears kind of dominate. The Bears come out and they are the dominant team. They win this game by maybe even margin. And that's the tail event on that is that JJ McCarthy has his 47% accuracy day, right? He has maybe even below that accuracy day. And the Bears come out and kind of have a dominant performance because of that.
I love the point that you hit on there. Now, we did see Jalen Naylor absolutely go nuclear last week. The Bears are one of the highest single high, like developing into man coverages, if I understand this correctly. That's just been kind of Dennis Allen's MO as a defensive coordinator, but they play a lot of coverage that allows single coverage and develops into man coverage. So we could get a really easy tail event that goes crazy. Tell me if I'm on base here. Bears alternate money line we could even go like -3, right? Then a Jalen Naylor 70 yards. He had 125. The Ravens play a ton of man coverage as well, and he had 70 yards. That was the one guy that JJ McCarthy magically could hit accurately is Jalen Naylor. And then would you do a bring back with Colston Loveland and maybe, just a slight, maybe potentially more median outcome with the either receptions or yards based on the fact that Minnesota plays such a too high middle of the field open defense. Such a high rate, being the highest in the league of too high coverage. I wanted to get your thoughts as far as that one.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting build. And I think that it kind of depends on what your core is in that, right? Like what is your core philosophy in the story that you have? Like you're telling a story, right? What's the core philosophy? Is it that Bears win by 3? Because then it's like, well, how did the Bears win by 3? Right. And then the bringback's actually Jalen Naylor, right? Like that was the second thing you mentioned, but that's actually the bringback. If your core philosophy is Bears win by 3, and then you kind of build like, how do they win by 3 and build around that. Right. And like, that's just kind of how I would approach it. Right. Like, okay, my core philosophy is they win by 3. Well, maybe they win, like the way that they win by 3 is through attacking this middle of the field open coverage through Colston Loveland, or maybe Cole Kmet or something. I know people don't like hearing that, but he's still a part of this offense as long as he's not hurt. And so like, how do they end up, getting to that lead? And then who do the Vikings kind of bring back with? I will say, like, Jalen Naylor's been very good at getting open. He's kind of I like to call him the Andre Yosivas, the Malik Washington of this offense. But
that's perfect.
He's like this third kind of player that's actually pretty good, but doesn't get as much respect as he should. I will say that he's the kind of player that's going to have these kind of spike weeks, and then Justin Jefferson needs his. Right. Like Justin Jefferson's going to be getting his targets, and Jordan Addison will be getting his targets as well. So it's like, it really depends on how you approach this, on who you want to bring back. But I just think that it depends on the story that you want to tell. Right. It really depends on the story that you want to tell.
I wanted to throw that out there because it's important for me that we inform the conversation for for people listening on like, hey, this is the philosophy behind it, as opposed to just giving you the bets. Again, if Jeremiah was here, he would say, teach a man to fish instead of giving him fish.
There you go.
So, yeah, but let's move on. This is one that I think we all kind of have circled. It's the Spain game. It's Madrid. It's 8:30 in the morning. It's a tail event bonanza. The Dolphins, the Commanders, Jalen Waddle, complete and utter destruction. I give you the floor so you can cook.
Well, yeah, I think that the Commanders they're a very strange defense. They're kind of in a way like the Falcons, as in they haven't been like super great. They're like the worst Falcons, I guess. They haven't been like good at defending the pass, but teams have been choosing to run the ball on them a lot. So if you think about like, there's two kinds of funnels in like the NFL world. I'm sure there's more than this if you really like break it down, but there's two like main funnels. Like an attempts funnel, like what do you funnel attempts from the offense to? Do you funnel pass attempts or do you funnel rush attempts? And then there's like skill funnels, like how good are you at defending the pass and how good are you at defending the run? And the Commanders are awful at defending the pass, but they funnel a lot of rush attempts, which creates this world of like super high efficiency for the offense. Like we saw in the Seahawks game was like the perfect example. We actually saw it in the Lions game too, but the Lions really pushed passing the ball more than normal.
Yeah.
So like we saw this in the Seahawks game kind of perfectly. Like Sam Darnold did not have that many attempts, and he passed for an incredible amount of yards. And that's just kind of what the Seahawks do, but it's also what the Commanders allow, right? That's like what the Commanders kind of tend to allow. So now you're going up against Jalen Waddle, who has been like a top 10 wide receiver since Tyreek Hill has been out. Like as far as like a skill and P-Whopper is concerned, and just any kind of metric that you look at, Jalen Waddle has been really, really good ever since Tyreek Hill left.
Yes.
Going up against a team that allows a lot of single coverage to develop. Right now, the Commanders allow the 5th most single coverage to develop in the NFL. And Jalen Waddle's like a top 5 wide receiver against single coverage. So I just think you have the situation developing, at least for this game, that Jalen Waddle should really toast this defense. And I just mentioned him. Malik Washington might do decent too, but we might see a lot of rush attempts. So this is a situation where I see like potentially maybe Tua overs in passing yards, maybe Tua under in attempts, and then maybe push Jalen Waddle in some kind of direction and really be able to push an SGP in that way. I will say, like, international games are weird. Like, you never know, like, how everyone's going to handle the flights. You know what I mean? You don't know how everyone's going to handle that. So things get weird. And I don't really love betting a ton on international games. I did a lot last week with the Colts and the Falcons because that was like one of my favorite like kind of setups of the year. But this game, I'm going to put definitely a little bit on that idea of a high efficiency game from the Dolphins through Jalen Waddle having a monster game against this really, really awful defense covering the pass.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're funneling, they're treating him like he's Tyreek Hill, which is like, man, you could have just been doing this the whole time. Like, you paid him, so treat him that way. But since in the last 4 weeks, just 7 through 10, he is 3rd among qualified wide receivers, at least 60 routes run. That's the filter that I put on. Guys with 60 routes run in the last 4 weeks, 2.98 yards per route run. And it's tied with CeeDee Lamb for percentage of team area or team yardage at 35.4%. So it's one of those things where it's a movable object gets sliced in half by a red hot offensive unit. I mean, I don't know what happened. Maybe Tua, I don't know what's going on. But they figured something out, and the Commanders got to figure something out because they don't tackle well, but they also don't get a lot of pressure. Like you said, that they were a worse Falcons, and I think that that's a very astute point because they have 0 pass rush. Von Miller's collecting Social Security over there, not really doing much. Deron Payne suspended. Like they just don't have Bobby Wagner is also collecting an AARP check, and Frankie Luvu has regressed in a diabolical manner. So this seems like a really, really, really good game environment. Do you want to do anything with Devon Achane after seeing what Jahmyr Gibbs did to them last week?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he would be the only other player that I'd really consider in this, and I don't know exactly how I want to consider him in this game right at this moment. But like, I do think that like the Commanders have not been good in the receiving game against running backs. Like, I think DeAndre Swift on his like 55-yard touchdown that he had earlier in the season. I just think that like I know for a fact the Commanders are like a bottom 5 team against running back receptions. So we know that the Dolphins love to throw the ball to Devon Achane, and I think that this could be a rough situation for them. I will say, like, talking about the Commanders allowing a lot of single coverage situations to develop. Tua is the 2nd best quarterback in the NFL this season when single coverage is present, right? If you're curious, Sam Darnold's the 1st. And we saw what Sam Darnold did to this defense, right? So Tua is the 2nd best quarterback when single coverage is on the field. And I just think that this is a kind of, I mean, in a similar but lesser way to the Eagles game, like this is a situation I want to attack where we just have a defense that allows very efficient passing games from an offense that can achieve those outcomes.
Let me ask you real quick before we move. Like, I hate having to talk about the Washington side because it's just such a disappointment. And that's why fantasy can never be solved, even though this isn't a fantasy show. But that offense being as putrid as it is, the Miami Dolphins playing a ton of too high. Do you have any interest in a bring back with Zach Ertz?
I mean, not a ton, but I don't mind it.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's not going to be like a play of the week or anything. If anything, I actually think Debo's a really interesting player. So he's a route-based hero this week. He comes out in the articles tomorrow. But he's a route-based hero this week against the Dolphins, who have had the most missed tackles in the NFL. Like the Dolphins are not defending tackle. Like they're just not tackling well right now. And, Debo has the 5th most missed tackles forced for a wide receiver in the NFL. And to add on the Dolphins, they have the most missed tackles for wide receivers allowed in the NFL. So Debo might be a pretty good play just from the Commanders are going to get him the ball. And I don't think that the Dolphins are going to be able to tackle him.
So yeah, that's a great.
And Zach Ertz is like the most tackleable player in the world.
Oh, so. there's no sort of yardage being created. He is going to lay down and sit crisscross applesauce as soon as he catches a ball, and that's just what he does. He's
done that forever. Yeah, that's his game. So,
let's move on. So, this is one of the ones we're moving on to Carolina and Atlanta. This is supposed to be a tail event bonanza for a specific tight end. And we went to the well on this. When they played in week 4, and that game just got so weird, so quick that we couldn't take anything away from it. Talk to me about where you're at with Kyle Pitts in this matchup versus the Carolina defense, and how they particularly prefer to play defense, and why that's good for Kyle Pitts.
So the first matchup makes me want to cry. I have so many words for that, but in the first matchup, the Falcons lose by 30, right? Penix had the 4th worst game of any quarterback this season. As far as PFF grade is concerned, it was the 4th worst for any quarterback this season on any week, right? It was a truly atrocious game. And the thing is, Kyle Pitts was open plenty in that game. And Penix just was not willing to throw it to him. And that's kind of the story of the last few weeks, is that Kyle Pitts has been a top 5 tight end at getting open in the NFL. He's currently wide receiver 15 in fantasy, but he's tight end 15, but he has been getting open like crazy, and Penix just isn't throwing him the ball. And when he is throwing him the ball, it's inaccurate. You know how JJ McCarthy was the least accurate quarterback in the NFL? Michael Penix is the 2nd least accurate quarterback in the NFL. He is not getting the ball to his players, except Drake London, accurately. Just ask Darnell Mooney, who had 8 targets last week and 2 receptions. He did not have, I think, maybe 2 catchable targets. So this is it's kind of a similar situation to JJ McCarthy in that you're playing a pretty bad Panthers defense. This is a defense that does not generate a lot of pressure and that is not particularly great at coverage, and they're really bad at coverage. They're the worst team in the NFL at covering tight ends, which Kyle Pitts, as everyone knows, is a tight end. Who's playing really well. So to me, this is, again, it's a tail event situation where we're assuming, okay, Michael Penix maybe doesn't have the 2nd worst accuracy percentage in the NFL. And maybe he has the 16th worst accuracy percentage in the NFL. And that allows for more yards, more attempts, more everything. Just that one number ticks up. And now we're moving the chains. We're converting. We're moving. We're scoring. Everything works when that number goes up. So it's kind of like the engine of this bet is that we're assuming this kind of mid defense to bad defense isn't able to force Penix into, like, they were able to force him into uncomfortable situations last time. Let's hope and see what happens that they shouldn't be able to do it again. Right.
It was so strange, man. Like, it's almost, you got to throw the baby out with the bathwater with that one, because it's so bad. It was so bad that you can't even fathom, like, oh, okay, they didn't score a single point and no one had a decent day.
And Penix got benched at the beginning of the 4th quarter too. Like he got just outright benched. And I'm just so upset about this because I think he had like 170 yards at that point, like at the beginning of the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
I had plenty of it's like his tail events were like 250. Like getting to 250 like sets off all of his yardage. He probably gets that if he just plays the game. Like they were losing the whole time. So I do think that that's a little bit of an anomaly. I think that people are going to be scared to bet this because of how awful he looked last game. The thing is like last season, I'm pretty sure Penix played the Panthers towards the end of the season and had an awesome game. Like it is
yes.
very possible that that's just an anomaly. We see Michael Penix return to something decent. He has a better accuracy percentage than second worst in the NFL. And maybe he thinks maybe Kyle Pitts deserves a few targets.
The issue is that my thought process, you tell me I'm wrong. The issue is that the Panthers will slow the game down, try to muddy it up, and just run Rico Dowdle into the ground.
They will absolutely try that. Yeah, they're going to have so many rush attempts. The Falcons, kind of similar to the Commanders, are a rush attempt funnel. They because they blitz so much, I think teams are just like spooked by that, and they just choose to run it. Like instead of having to figure out this defense, they're just like, let's just run it. The Panthers want to do that. Like that's what the Panthers want to do. They're like, thank you. Yeah, we'll do that all day long. And so we're probably going to see a ton of rush attempts from the Panthers side, which is why this is not a spot where I necessarily want to bet on attempts too much for the Falcons. Like I'm not going to push attempts in this game, but I do think that efficiency could be pushed. I do think that that's a spot that I would like to try to push this game.
This is so. Just to put numbers to this, since the last 4 games, the Panthers, or not the Panthers, but golly, I'm just running through all the wrong teams we talked about. Hey, the Falcons are allowing 187 yards rushing a game, and that's what I feel like could put a monkey wrench in our plans there. But this is a phenomenal event for Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts should have had a much bigger day last week. He dropped at the very beginning of the game. I know because I was watching it. He dropped a wide open pass that would have cashed all of his overs. He ended up with like 39 yards or 55
2 catches. Yeah, it was like 5 targets, 2 catches. I was driving to Tennessee and back, so I didn't get to see it. But I did see that he had 5 targets and 2 catches, and I was like, what did Michael Penix do? Dude, what did you do?
It wasn't Penix this time, although Penix was absolutely putrid. And going back to the Drake London point, over the same stretch, like the last 4 weeks, because that's how we need to pay attention to this, as you alluded to earlier. Drake London has 5 spectacular hero catches, is what it's called on fantasy points data. No other receiver in the NFL has more than 2. Yeah. So he's making chicken salad out of chicken shit with all the Michael Penix business. But
that's super important to say. Like hero catches and like that idea of like a receiver kind of doing that is a receiver can't do that forever, right? Like you can't keep doing that forever. Eventually, you have to throw it to the open guy. Like eventually, or you're just not going to make it at some point.
That's the issue that we're having with Penix is like, I'm a big Captain Durag. That's what I call Michael Penix guy, but it's just, he's got to find some consistency. And right now the devil's in the details with him, and the details are not very good. But before we get out of here, is there anything you wanted to discuss with, like, this is a really gross Thursday night game. There's no Garrett Wilson. You have Justin Fields for however long that he's
you got somebody. I'm not sure who's passing the ball, but you got somebody.
What's your thought process going into this game, and is there anything that really stuck out to you that we could give to the people on the way out?
The only thing that stuck out to me, and I'm not even allowed to bet it here in Alabama, I thought about driving to go bet this, but I didn't, and that's that. Like, we don't really know the Jets quarterback situation. I know that like everyone kind of assumes that Tyrod Taylor is going to come in at some point, or Justin Fields over under was like 130 yards.
It's 136 yards. I looked at it earlier today.
That is nothing. Give his max alt, like it was 240 yards, was like plus 1,300. Give me that all day long because we just don't know, right? And this is like the Patriots are a pass funnel team. Like they're a slight pass funnel. They generally want teams to like. I mean, maybe they don't want teams to pass it on them, but they allow more pass attempts than other teams. And I don't know. Like it's more of just a full on right tail event that Justin Fields is the starter the whole game. Right? He starts the whole game against the pass funnel, passes it more than normal, and that's something I'm interested in. I wasn't allowed to bet it for some reason. Underdog they shut off all of Justin Fields' alts. I think they're scared of me. Is the case. I checked other sites too, and all of them have it shut off in Alabama. So I think they're scared of me because of what I would do to me and myself as far as pushing these Justin Fields alts all the way. Because it's just like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to put. I would put like $2 on it. It's not like I would like put a lot of money on this, but 240 yards, getting it at plus 1,300 is insane. Normally, a quarterback has to pass for like 300 or 400 yards to get plus 1,300 on 240 yards. And then combining that with just various other things, I think that, generally makes sense would be like Demario Douglas. I think his reception prop's a little too low, just a little bit. Like I think it's like one reception too low. I think that Mac Hollins is a single coverage monster, so the Jets allow a lot of single coverage. Mac Hollins sees a pretty big uptick in target share when seeing single coverage, so I think we could see a decent game from him. Same thing with Stephon Diggs. I think that really, because Kayshon Boutte's out, both of them should be elevated in anyone's projections. And then the last thing is that like May is an absolute slayer of man coverage, and the Jets have liked to run man coverage this season. So those are the main points that I'm interested in. But I didn't end up putting too much because the main thing I would want to bet is Justin Fields having a good day, because why not? It's like, of course he would have a good day in like the middle of November when everyone thinks the Jets are done. Of course he'd throw for 250 yards.
Yes, and I mean, conveniently they have a 2-game win streak going right now, so that is just absolutely bonkers. But before we get out of here, tell everybody where they can find everything. And before you do that, just please go subscribe to the Substack, Quality Stats. He just now put it behind a paywall for the very first time. So hopefully you were with me and you got everything for free. Now it's behind the paywall, but it's well worth it.
I've been putting about twice as much detail in now that it's been. It's really like it's exciting. It makes it like well worth it. I want to make sure it's valuable for everybody.
Yes, we talked about that. Yes,
it's $4 a month. I try to make it valuable for everybody. That's the whole thing, is that I want this to be valuable. And when we hit the off season, it's really going to be focused on Dynasty and redraft content. But yeah, at Koala TY Stats on Twitter and Substack, and I put out a lot of stuff. So hopefully people find value in it.
Yeah, and then the is it Coach I Was Open will drop tomorrow?
Coach I Was Open and Route Based Heroes. Those are 2 free articles I write for PFF that have done phenomenal this season at predicting breakouts. This past week it predicted Emeka Egbuka being a breakout, and he was wide receiver 2. So
let me ask you this: did you put the predicted pressure table out yet?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I haven't. Dude, I don't know my head from a hole in the ground, so I'm gonna go check that out here in a second. If you want more me, go follow me on the Twitter X at Chev90, and there's a link tree and all that stuff. Well, this has been another episode of Bet On It. We appreciate you. I'm gonna tag Joseph, and we'll put our slips together, and we're gonna actually put them out so you guys can see what we're talking about with these odds, and only having to put like 3 or 4 bets on there. But till next time, peace.
See ya.